Hi, Matt McAleer, Director of Equity Strategies, February 10th, just after the close, with John Mousseau, the Moose, President and CEO, as I like to say, more importantly, Director of Fixed Income. John, what did you see in the bond market this week?
It's kind of a big fade, Matt. You know, we didn't have too much in terms of economic numbers this week. We did have that very strong jobs number last Friday, and the market seemed to fade off of that. If you measure from the middle of last week to where we are now, the 10-year bond has basically gone from a 340 to a 375. I think a lot of it is in this vacuum of no economic numbers. Next week, you get a lot of economic numbers. You have CPI, you have PPI, you have the Philly Fed Index, you have the Empire State Manufacturing Index, both business indices, and there's more. And when you think about it, it's a lot easier to approach those numbers as a trader. Think about Wall Street positioning with their traders from higher yields than lower yields. We'll see what the follow-through is on these numbers. We know that the Fed talk this week continued to be hawkish, and that probably put a little more pressure on the market, and the numbers will tell.
Yeah. That churn in the market, there was an upward bias in rates. I wouldn't call it anything that was very disturbing.
No.
But that churn in the market was on the equity side as well. Remember last week, what did we discuss last week? I brought up a chart last week, talked about the growth area of the market having reached a 10-week moving average or a positive momentum area, that it had run into trouble in the past. And I don't mean just last year. In the historic past, when you get to 75-80% of a sector trading with positive momentum, it's taken a lot of work to get there.
Right.
And you've exhausted some of the demand.
Sure.
So markets tend to start to reset off of those levels. And that's what we saw a little bit this week. The weaker sectors were communications, information technology, growth in general. Where was there a bid for the first time all year? There was a bid back into the defensive areas, right. Utilities, consumer staples, and so forth. Healthcare had a little bit of a bid. Utilities is a sector that I always keep an eye on because that tends to give you a gauge of the risk-taking nature of the equity market. Money can still be going in, but where is it going? So first week with some defensive strength, we'll see if that carries over. In terms of international markets, same type of action, just a pullback. So it's a pullback over some overbought conditions. In 22, those pullbacks didn't stop.
Right.
You kept drifting lower. In stronger markets, those pullbacks are very natural. And we'll look to play that pullback with cash we have on the sidelines. In terms of what we're looking towards next week, it's still going to be in the value camp. Not necessarily defensive value, because I would consider energy in value, the only sector up this week. We'll look at the value areas, and it may be some of the spots we added a month ago, dimensional value, things of that nature.
Yeah.
So.
One thing on the bond side that supports your idea that we're kind of just churning along here a little bit is here's a week where yields were up, muni yields were up too, but you had money flowing into bond funds. So the fear factor, which you had so much of last year, is still on the sidelines, and now people are starting to add money into bond funds, and the flows continue. And I think part of that is the belief that, yes, maybe inflation could go back a little higher again, but the really tough news of last year is behind us.
You would think so. Markets adjust to the same news over and over and over. Maybe markets looking for something new, probably something we're not even discussing today. Well, enjoy the Super Bowl. Moose, who's your pick?
I like the Chiefs with 1.5 points, my friend.
All right. Well, if you know me, you know I could never root for the Birds, the Eagles. I'm a Giants fan. Eagles and Cowboys can never be rooted for. So I'll be with you on the Mahomes Express.
We'll see what happens.
Enjoy the weekend.